Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Old Iron Garage. So we're going to jump right in here. I don't want to waste any time. Try to make this a little bit shorter video. So today on the bench, we have an engine that one of my buddies dropped off, and it does not run, and he wants it to run. This engine had come off of a racing go-kart at some point in time, and he acquired it, and he wants to put it on a mini bike. I believe that's what he said he wants to do with it. So now this engine does look a little funny for being coming off of a racing go-kart because of this recoil cover here. You can tell that's not the correct one for let's say like a Raptor, like a Briggs and Stratton Raptor engine or something like that. This is not one you'd usually see on a race kart engine, but he needed a recoil, and I had previously sold him this one as well as the coil that's in here. But anyways, so yeah, let's dive in. Let's get started. As you can see, I've already done some stuff like off camera. I've taken off the fuel tank because it was in the way for me to secure this engine to the board on this side. I wanted to secure it to a board so that way I can clamp this board to my bench with a couple of clamps for when I'm ready to try to start it. But anyway, so I had to take off the fuel tank to get that out of the way on this side over here so I can secure it on this side where the bolt holes are. There's a bracket I took off. I took off the exhaust because it was long and in the way. So yeah, I took that off. Alrighty, so let's get the fuel tank back on it. Actually, before we do, let's go ahead and get the fuel tank back on it and see what happens. Well, no, let's go ahead and check for spark. Let's check for spark next. It looks like we may have a new spark plug. Yeah, brand new spark plug. It's nice and clean. Looks like it's never been fired. I just wanted to take a look at the spark plug threads in the head. They look okay. They look good. Nice and tight, but not too tight. After all, it is an aluminum head. So let's go ahead and get... that bolt's loose, as is that one. I'm going to tighten those up real quick while I'm there. Okay, so those are nice and tight. Now it just needs this one back in the top. Nice and secure. All right, let's get the... I'm not going to be able to get the gas tank, the fuel tank back on. the carburetor without taking the carburetor off the engine, because the board that it is mounted to is in the way of that bracket right there. Won't be able to get it on. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the fuel tank. No, the fuel tank. I'm sorry. I misspoke. It's already off. I'm going to go ahead and remove the carburetor, mount it to the fuel tank, and then mount them back on together. One thing I should probably go ahead and do is, just so it's out of the way, take off this air filter. I can do that here in a second before I get the other bolt out. This carburetor, it's a stock style carburetor. I don't know what may have been done to it, but it has this adapter on here for a high flow style of a high flow or high performance style of air filter. All right. This engine, I've already taken a look at it, and I noticed it has had the governor deleted. So it's just, throttle cable directly to the throttle on the carburetor. So this is going to be a higher revving application engine. I mean, obviously it is intended for racing, so... Somebody's car alarm's going off. It's not one of ours. Come on, wiggle loose. Having trouble with the bolt. Not wanting to turn, but due to its location, can't really get an Allen wrench on it good. They replaced the standard hex head bolts with Allen bolts. While this is off, I'm going to go ahead and open this up here and take a look at the diaphragm. In here, under this plate, there's a thing called a diaphragm. It works like a fuel pump. It's got a couple of flaps that are operated by engine vacuum, I believe. Or no, it's not engine vacuum, not crankcase vacuum, but like the vacuum, I believe the pulse of the engine sucking in air. So, I'll scoot this back a little so I have some space to work. When we were discussing this engine and it not running, we didn't really go into details. I didn't ask a lot of questions. I figured, well, I'll just take a look and figure it out. Could be a bad diaphragm, could be a sheared flywheel key. I didn't really ask him what it does. He just said it doesn't run. And I didn't really ask. I just said, I'll just figure it out. Okay, I have to be very gentle with this diaphragm. This is the diaphragm. See the two little flaps there, and then there's a spring and a little cup that goes over there and a spring behind that part, and that part pulses and makes the vacuum pulse for those two flaps to operate. This all looks good. It's not all dried and hard and brittle. Carburetor looks good where the diaphragm goes on, so I'm just going to throw that back in there. I was going to say, if it's the diaphragm, it's an easy repair, and I happen to have these diaphragms for these Briggs and Stratton carburetors on hand. There's, as well as the gasket that goes between the carburetor and the fuel tank. I keep stuff like that on hand. There's certain parts that are very common parts, commonly used and commonly replaced, and that I just tend to keep on hand. It is a nice day here where I live. It's supposed to be like 52 degrees. I don't know what it actually is right now outside, but it's not bad. It's a little on the windy side though. So, in one of my recent videos that I uploaded, I was power washing a tractor outside, my Boland's Husky 1253, and it was a breezy day, and I forgot. It was either that video or it was another one that I recently uploaded. I don't remember which one it was now, but I forgot to silence a wind chime that's outside, hanging from the corner of the garage. And there was a guy that commented on it on the link I posted to the video on a Facebook group that said something about the wind chimes. I was like, I'm sorry, man. I'm so used to hearing them, I forgot about them. But anyway, so yeah, I made sure to silence those today silence that today before starting this video. Because, I went back and checked the video later after he had commented, and sure enough, and it was annoying. I wish they would not have replaced these with Allens. Could go a little faster with a screwdriver, but I'm sure they had reasons for it. I don't usually mess with performance small engines, so something for like a race kart or a built engine for a mini bike or something. Most of what I mess with is stock stuff, so there's going to be some stuff on here that I don't know about, like why so much of the hardware was replaced with Allens, but I'm sure they have a reason for it. And maybe it was just their personal preference. Maybe they just prefer Allens, whoever did this engine. It's hard to say. Thought about taking this air filter adapter off just so I could, screw these in a little faster. At least this one that I'm having to turn in by hand. But I was like, well, it's going to take me longer or at least as long to take that off and put it back on than it will to just leave it on and do it this way. Need to get a set of those Allen wrenches that have a ball on the end so you can use them at an angle. I don't have a set yet. I need to get a set. One thing I noticed was these bolts, these Allen bolts, were not very tight at all. I've run into some hardware and stuff on here on this engine so far that was not very tight. So I'm going to tighten these down like they should be. just to make double sure that I don't have a leak there. I noticed they double gasketed it. They may have possibly had a problem in the past with it leaking there at that gasket between the carburetor and the fuel tank. So that may have been a problem. It's hard to say. But we're going to go ahead and just give it a nice good tight, well, yeah, we're just going to tighten it real good for him. It's a little time consuming working with these, having to turn some of these in by hand, because like the bolts for where the carburetor bolts to the engine block, they're hard to get at. And these being, if it was a wrench, even with a wrench, they're like a regular hex head. Hold on. Even if it was the regular hex head, which would have come on it from the factory, it can still be a little challenging. But then I'd at least be able to get a wrench in there from the side. Whereas these, oh, I wonder if this flathead will fit in there and turn it. Sure enough, it will. So I was able to speed that up I had just the right sized flathead screwdriver to get in there and turn it. But yeah, anyway, if I was dealing with a wrench and a hex head, it'd be a little easier. Yeah, this is the correct one. Come on, get in there. Having trouble getting the bolt to go through the bolt hole on the flange of the carburetor. I'm going to take this back off and see what's going on there. There. Now it's in. Come on, catch a thread, get started. I apologize, these Allen bolts are being a pain in the butt. Just to get them started, to get them to catch a thread. Okay, I'm going to take... I'm going to take this linkage here off because it is in my way of being able to get in there. I apologize. It doesn't normally take me this long for this. This is just being a real pain in the butt. These Allen bolts are ridiculous. They are not wanting to cooperate because of where they are. It's making it almost impossible. What in the world? The bolt got loose and it tightened back up on me. You gotta love that. Love it when that happens. That bolt's a little bit bent, but it works. So it's not there. There we go. I couldn't get the bolt to the bolt hole. It didn't want to go through the flange of the carburetor. Like, why? Why? I'm actually going to take this other bolt back out, the one I'd started first, and just get it out of the way so I can move the carburetor around some. Now that one don't want to come out. What in the world is going on here? So hoping I can tap on it and get it to come. Why do these things not want to come out of their holes? Oh my gosh. I apologize. This is the most I've ever had trouble with this, ever. Guys, don't use Allen bolts in here. I'm not sure. There was probably a reason for it, but I am not set up here with a short enough Allen wrench to get in that little gap. So I'm having to try to turn these by hand, but for some reason they're binding up in the holes that they're going through, and yeah, it's a mess. Don't use Allen bolts here, guys. Please. For the love of God. Seems like no matter how I go at it, I just can't get two fingers in there to grab onto the thing to turn it. I'm going to try putting in the one that goes in the bottom in the bracket that bolts the fuel tank to the block. Maybe that'll help to support it so that I can not have to hold it. Get back up there. Well, so much for this being a short video. I guess that just went out the window. going to take me like a year to get it in this way. There's got to be a better way. Get off of my hand. It turns really easy with an Allen wrench, but then you go to grab it with 2 fingers and it will not budge, will not turn in either direction. I've got half a mind to just replace these with hex head bolts. Here we go. Now I can start to thread it in with the Allen wrench. It's still going to take forever, but it's going at least. It's going so stinking easy, like so, so I keep wanting to try to do it by hand, but every single time I do, it's like the thing is tight all the way. It's like it, or like it's seized. It just does not want to budge in the slightest bit. Anything else that I can use to get in there? I'm afraid probably not. See, this one I can't get an angle, or can't get a good angle to get a flathead screwdriver in to turn it. There's no way to do it. The carburetor and fuel tank are in the way. I'm just going to have to keep plugging away with this Allen wrench. I hope that you guys don't fall asleep from boredom by the time I get it in. Please feel free to just fast forward this part of the video. I can only get like 1/8 of a turn. Have an idea. I think if I ever see another one of these engines that has Allen bolts in it, I'm not going to touch it. Oh my gosh. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. I've never had it take me so long to get any bolt in all my life. if I had some Allen wrenches I didn't care about, I'd take one and trim it shorter so I'd have more space to work with. I'm using the short end of the Allen, and that's still too long. I'm not even getting an eighth of a turn anymore. Like, this is completely absurd. There, it's almost all the way in. Thank God. Oh, that was absurd. That was just completely ridiculous. Now we have to back it back out a little bit. I don't have any space for the other one to go in. Get in there. Move. The bolts are getting like stuck in the flange of the carburetor. These bolts are not made for this carburetor. But I can't thread them in, and I can't get a wrench in it. Can't get anything in it to make it go in. This is completely absurd. Kind of self-clearance in the aluminum flange of the carburetor, because like it's literally getting stuck in the flange of the carburetor, but there's no space, zero space to get a wrench or anything on it. So I had to like make it self-clearance basically. Now I can turn it in by hand, and it didn't really hurt anything at all. Didn't hurt a single thing. Now, before I go any further, I'm going to put the bolt back in the bottom where the fuel tank mounts to the block. I apologize. That took way too long. I was getting very irritated. I was trying very hard not to cuss. I was very irritated. I've never had that problem before, and I never want to have it again. I wanted this to be a short video. Excuse me. Well, guys, I'm just going to tell you this right now. I'm not taking this carburetor off again. If I have to service it, I'm going to do it right on the engine. Right there, mounted to the block, because it is not coming off again. That's just all there is to it. That was completely ridiculous. All right. How to put this little doodad, this little throttle linkage thing, back on. That just came undone. This engine does not like me in the slightest bit. Okay. Take a deep breath. All right, I'm sorry. This engine is being kind of a pain in the butt. So, I'm going to clamp it down. I already checked earlier that it has oil in it. I'm going to clamp it down to the bench, and we're going to see what it does. See if we can figure out what the problem is. I just use these clamps from Harbor Freight. They do a good enough job. I mean, they're stupid cheap, and they clamp pretty well for what they are, for as cheap as they are. So, I mean, I'm happy with them. I've, used two hands before to tighten these clamps down, and have yet to break one. And they pretty much always hold what I need them to hold. See, that's actually pretty secure there. Move the stool I was sitting on. I'm going to move you guys. Yeah, looks good. I'm going to grab some ether. Here's some. And we're going to see what this thing does. Well, starts. It's crazy loud because there's no muffler. One thing I'm going to do is there's no governor, so I'm going to have to find some kind of spring, and I think I know where one is that I can use. There's nothing to keep this engine from revving out of control. So I'll take this little spring, and I'm going to adapt it to that's the wide open position. I gotta go the other way. Let's try it again. Too much ether. Seems to run fine on ether, so that leads me to believe that there's a fuel delivery problem. One thing that had crossed my mind was, well, if it's not running, sheared key. But I think we can rule that out now because it doesn't, pop and backfire and stuff like it would have had a sheared key. Doesn't like backfire out through the carburetor or anything. So I think we can rule that out. So you know what? I'm just going to put some gas in it and see what it does. Should be more than enough. Let's take a look and see exactly how much is in there. Yeah, more than enough. A couple inches of gas in there. I always like to make sure, if I'm diagnosing an engine, trying to figure out what's wrong with it, trying to get it going, I always try to make sure it has plenty of fuel. Versus like just barely any. That way I can rule that out. And before I get started, I'm also going to bench set this carburetor. So like, by that, the fuel mixture screw over here, I'm going to turn it in all the way. So it was two full turns out. It should be able to run on that, but maybe not very well. It's hard to say. So we're going to go to bench set it. 1/2 turn, 1 full turn, 1 and 1/2 turn total. You know what? I wonder if I have a muffler that I could screw in there just for the time being so it's not so loud. I do have one, but it's kind of buried. Well, I'm not going to take the time. I do have a muffler. I have a pipe that'll thread in here and a muffler on the end of it. It's like my test pipe setup for these 5-horse Briggs engines. But it's on an engine and the engine's buried. I'm not going to waste any time digging that out. So, just going to run what I brought. Run what I brought. So, all right. Give it some ether, get it going again, see if we can get it running on the fuel in the tank. Ow! That whipped me. Okay, well, what do you know, guys? It runs. I don't know exactly what was wrong with it, to be honest. I don't know exactly what was wrong with it, to be honest. It may have just been as simple as that idle mixture, or no, the fuel mixture screw being out too far, so it was running too rich. It was set too rich, maybe. I don't know. By the way, it runs now, but I'm going to tinker with it a little bit, try to fine-tune it a little bit, get it to run a little better and stay running, and see what happens. Maybe I shouldn't have put ether in. Maybe I should have just pulled it. Probably flooded now. Ooh, it tried to fire. It fired. Okay, we're going to turn to idle. Back up a hair. And we are going to start over with bench setting the carburetor. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it is not running right after all, but again, it may still be a matter of just fine tuning, which is what I'm working on. I'm going to have to move all these tools because they're all wanting to jump off the bench. Oh, that was nice. Dropped a socket down into a little bucket of oil. One more thing I may have to do is pretty soon here, I'm going to have to go open that garage door. I don't have it open because it is a little chilly out, but I don't want to die, so it's getting a little bit strong in here. All right, guys. So I don't really want to make this video any longer than it is right now. So I'm going to make this a 2-part video. Because we're already at we're closing in on 55 minutes. So, yeah, I don't really want to make this a longer video, and I also don't want to die of carbon monoxide poisoning or carbon dioxide, whatever. I don't want to die. So I'm going to go get this door open. I'm going to cut off the video here, and we will revisit this engine in the next video. All right, thank you for tuning in.